Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to Wednesday Night Reviews. I'm your host, Konrad, and joining me on the right side of your screen today is Brendan Montgomery, Editor-in-Chief of Sequential Magazine, for which I'm holding issue 1 right now. So, Brendan, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show today with me.
You're welcome. No problem.
When it comes to the magazine, it is a purely Canadian magazine. You focus on reviews and interviews with Canadian creators, correct?
Yes, and also even somewhat more specifically, we generally focus on self-published or more independent works than those coming from larger publishers, which would already have a lot of coverage.
Fair enough. And for an example for people at home, that might be, for instance, you might not interview, say, Jeff Lemire because of how widespread the popularity is, but someone like Gerhard, who's a little, well, established, is not as openly published. That would be a bit of a difference, correct, of why you might interview them?
Yes, and specifically, in that case, his history with independent comics in the past as well.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Clearly, you promote, as editor-in-chief of Sequential Magazine, local. I like to focus on it as well. So for the people at home, where within Canada are you located? Are you naturally born Canadian? And you don't have to be too specific. Something like the province is great. If you want to go down to the city, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Timmins, Ontario, Canada, and then I've now since moved to the Montreal area.
Wonderful. And that's currently where you are, right? In Montreal?
Yeah.
Awesome. I've never actually been, so hopefully one day I can go and enjoy the city and the area.
Yeah, for sure. It's great.
So, where did you get your start in comics?
Growing up, we didn't actually have too much access to comics. There was only one shop in town, and I'm not sure if they were new at the time. I can't recall or not. But anyway, I think they were all back issues that they were reselling.
Okay.
I don't think we had an up to date store anyway. So I had read some back issues as a kid, and then in the 2000s, and then but they were mostly 90s comics. That's why I'm pretty sure they were back issues. Anyway, so I started off with 90s comics, basically, mostly DC, and the Justice League cartoon was a huge influence on me.
Hell yeah.
And then when I went to university, I went to Queen's University in Kingston, so then had access to a great local shop there, and coincidentally, it was when the New 52 was starting, so it was a good time to jump in. So I started pulling some books from that, and then I'd also, now that I was in Southern Ontario, much more accessible to conventions. So then I started to go to conventions in the mainly Toronto area, but also Montreal too, because Kingston was nicely in between both of them. So in about 2012, I started going to conventions. And then at conventions, that's where I learned a lot more about the artists and the actual independent comic scene in Canada, just by seeing what was out there and what panels were on comics.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember for me the big convention, still to this day, like I'm sad it didn't happen this year, is Fan Expo, just because for me I'm from Niagara, and then a few years back I moved into Toronto, so Fan Expo was the thing to do for me. How was the Montreal con?
It's very similar to Fan Expo, maybe slightly smaller, I guess you would say, but a very nice building, very well run. So a lot less of the crowding issues, but that's partially because of the few. I don't know, partially because of the population, I guess. But it's very well run and very, very good. And it's not. They do have some panels in French, which is great, but not all of them. So if you don't speak French, it's okay. You can still go to a bunch of the panels. They have a mix of both, which is good.
Very cool.
Whereas the one in Quebec City is mostly French. I don't know if they have any English panels or anything. So once you get deeper into Quebec, then you can go to all French panels, all French conventions. But Montreal is the kind of in between one where it's a bit of both, which is good.
Yeah, and Montreal is kind of viewed as like the English bridge into the French world in Canada, at least from everything I've heard.
Yeah, and the area I live in is also more English speaking as well, which is helpful. But I mean, I did do French immersion in high school,
Cool.
so I can speak some French, but it's still not the best. But
Well,
um,
you've probably got me beat. I can remember minimal French from when I went to high school and everything before that.
yeah, all through grade school and high school, so pretty decent. But yeah.
That's great. And as you mentioned, sort of the new 52 seemed to be your jump on point. Is that when you started collecting comics regularly?
Yeah, that's when I started like pulling having an actual pull list instead of just randomly picking up things. But before then, it was a lot through chapters as well. So people kind of forget that too. But chapters having graphic novels for a long time was actually really helpful. So anytime we would be going to a bookstore or something, I could still get a graphic novel, even if it wasn't the latest thing or whatever. I didn't know or care. So
Yep.
that's huge. Yeah, like having that availability has probably helped a lot of people get into comics without a local store.
Oh heck yeah! I mean that's even me personally. Like Chapters is where I got my start. I picked up Hush, Final Crisis, and Morrison's Arkham Asylum, and that was where I got my start. And then from there, I think a year later, New 52 happened, and well, all of a sudden I've got comics coming out of my ears. So when it comes to Sequential Magazine as it is today, we've talked about it. I've done some research into it, and there's quite a bit of a history there. So how did Sequential Magazine as it is today start from your end?
All right, so yeah, so it is a long story, but like I mentioned before, I went to Queen's University in Kingston, and when I was there, there wasn't a comic book club, so I decided to start one. There was over 200 clubs at the university, but none of them were comics related. So yeah, I put in the effort, tried to recruit a few people, and we ended up getting about 8 or 10 people together
Oh, cool.
for this club just to chat about comics. But then we decided that we wanted some sort of project to do as well. Most other clubs kind of had a main activity, and then you would socialize around that main activity. So with the knowledge that I was gaining at conventions, I decided we should try and make our own comics with some extra research online too to help. So then in our second year of operation in about 2012, I think, 2013 maybe, 2012, I think, we put together our first comic book called Gale Force.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
So what it is it's a team of students, superheroes from our university.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 girls, a couple guys, and then see, there's this one shot of them here. Yeah. So we gave them all school colored uniforms and everything.
Nice. Wow.
And all that stuff. Yeah, and we actually got a local printer to do it, so it was all fully 100% made in Kingston. And then, so I did so we had artists, writers, we kind of wrote it together sort of, and then we had artists go and do the different pages, and then I colored it and put it all together.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's obviously not professional art or anything, but still we were able to get a nice little package out of that.
Yeah.
We got a couple local sponsors too, so a local comic book store and game store and stuff to help sponsor it. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that was great. And then we ended up doing over the 5 years that I was there, we did 3 issues, and then put it all together in a Kickstarter to make a graphic novel version.
Oh, wow.
So we put all 3 issues together into one nice graphic novel. A couple little improvements after the initial version too. And then it also happened to be the 175th anniversary of the university. So we sort of dedicated the book to that unofficially.
Yeah.
But we did get permission to use the logo and stuff. So they had this official logo that they were doing for the activities or whatever. So as a student club, we just emailed them and like, hey, can we use the logo on the cover? And they were like, yeah, for sure. So
that's wicked.
So that's how I got into comics. I haven't exactly made any since because of other life commitments and stuff. But then
life happens.
Yeah, and then I was just finding my way and stuff. And then while I had some time on my hands after university, I decided to found the Canadian Comic Book Wiki. So the idea of that website was just like Wikipedia or other fan wikis, is you just put together whatever information you want about your specific topic. So in this case, I did it for independent Canadian comics.
Yep.
So as I was looking for them myself and like learning about them and trying to track some of them down for my collection of Canadian comics, then I decided to put together this wiki, because there was no resource that I could find online to gather this kind of information. So for I think two or so years, I tried to compile as much of that information as possible onto that website. But I was hoping to have more people contribute, and it ended up being mostly everything that I added. Some artists and creators put up their own books, which was great. But I never got a lot of community involvement or interest, I guess, because it is just a standard, like it's just stating what the book is, who wrote it, when it was made, just the basic facts, right? And like a plot summary. Yeah. So, I mean, it was hard, I guess, for people to engage with it, I guess. So then I was trying to think of something new to do, because that wasn't really taking off as I'd hoped. And then I knew about like comic book journalism websites and stuff, like reading all kinds of comic book related articles and stuff. And then through that, I found the Sequential blog, which is a volunteer run blog just about Canadian comics. So I'd already used that for some research for the wiki anyway.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So I was a big so I was a fan of their blog anyway. So then once I got the idea to start a magazine, thanks to a conversation with a creator after a fan expo, he was like, "What if you put together some kind of catalog or magazine?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that could be something different." And then there are a few other comic book related magazines. There's a Broken Pencil. And I think there's one more too. It's another one I was going to mention. I forgot, but I'd seen a few examples of it anyway. So it is people are somewhat interested. Sure. I thought I would give that a shot instead, and then I was trying to come up with a name for the magazine and how I was going to run it. And then I figured if I could just get some involvement with Sequential, we could just use the Sequential name and just kind of co-brand it, kind of build off their existing following.
Yeah.
And that'll help reach an audience quicker. But instead of starting something entirely new, if we could be collaborative and work together, we could maybe build some bigger audience. That's why I approached Sequential blog with sort of combining our efforts, and then that's how it came about. So then I decided to, I needed writers. So then I was looking for volunteers, and I was surprised that I actually got several right off the bat, which was great.
Oh, sweet.
So then we eventually put out our first issue here. So this is our issue 1 of Sequential Magazine.
And when did that one come out?
So that was 2019, but January. We publish seasonally, four times a year. So I label them with the seasons, but that doesn't always line up with exactly when they come out. But it lines up more so when they were made. Because if you put a month in, people kind of think it might be monthly. I don't know. So just to make that clear that we try and do for a year.
For sure, yeah.
And our first feature article here was Credible Threat Press with their Our War comic. So they were really great to be our first feature and kind of give me some kind of main anchor point for the issue. And then so it's a full color.
Yes, it is.
8.5 by 11-inch magazine. And we get them printed by Studio Comics Press in Kitchener, which are just celebrated their 3rd anniversary. They're a huge supporter of Canadian indie comics, printing off small batches of a lot of indie comics. Very supportive of them. So we also wanted to give them our business as well.
Oh, for sure. And what was their name again?
Studio Comics Press. People may know Alfonso Espininos. Sorry, I probably pronounced that wrong, but
no worries. Whenever a name pops up, I make sure we put it in. That way, people can see the spelling, and I always try and link the stuff that they've made.
Yeah, so Alfonso has been making comics and printing them for a while. People have probably seen him at conventions as well with his Night Spike character, and he's got a whole line of books. So anyway, so he's very very knowledgeable about printing comics because he's been doing it for a long time. So he was a great partner to get us going. And then I mean, the one other thing you'll notice though too is that the first, I think it's 2 issues, I put the Canadian Comics Wiki logo on it.
Yep.
Because I was trying to show that it was a sort of a publication coming out of that. Then after the first couple issues went well, I have since stopped updating the Canadian Comics Wiki and kind of left it alone. It's still there. You can still refer to it, so it's still useful information. But I haven't been updating it in the last couple of years. And we've switched for our later issues. We've switched our branding fully over to the Sequential blog logo in the top right there.
Yes. Let's see.
And on the back here as well. So, if anyone's curious, that's why I think I could go back and change the logos in like the digital versions or something, but it is what it is. It's history.
Exactly, that's where it started.
Yeah.
One thing is like I've been on the wiki, and if I'm not mistaken, there was a note in there. So if people still want to contribute to it, if up and coming Canadian creators want to go on there and put on their comic and stuff, they're pretty well free to do that. Correct?
Yeah, so the fandom website is still running. So as long as you make one of those fandom accounts, then you can contribute. It should be open. I'll probably still get an email notification too, so I might be able to help check it out or something. But I haven't. But again, I'm not promoting this site as much, except I guess now. But
no, a little bit, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not actively promoting it or anything, because I'm focused on the magazine now. But.
Absolutely. And one of the things, so when I've gone to the Sequential Magazine website, it's Sequential Pulp.
Yeah, so that's the blog, yeah. So we have our kind of homepage as part of the blog website. Mm-hmm. There's no point in having separate websites. But you can still go to sequentialmagazine.ca and that'll redirect you to that page.
Perfect. Now, obviously, as the viewers have seen, because I've held it up a few times, I do have the physical copies. And in order to get them, I actually ended up going to gumroad.com, and then through there I can hit up your Sequential page. What other ways can people get it, and how can they get physical copies?
Yeah, so you just said that's our primary distribution right now. Is we have a Gumroad store, which is really great for independent creators. There's no upfront cost. You just give them your percentage of your sale, but there's no upfront cost to hosting on Gumroad. And then they are also a good website because you can do both digital and physical products in the same store. So they'll handle either one really well. And they do let us charge in Canadian dollars too, so it's not like we have to do a American conversion or something with some other stores.
Much appreciated.
So it is so it is really really easy to use. And then again, because we print them in small batches, so that's your main way to get them is through our Gumroad store, which is gumroad.com/SEQ magazine. And then, but that link is on our sequentialmagazine.ca. So if you just go to sequentialmagazine.ca, then there's a big button on there to go to the store. So that's probably the easiest. And then beyond that, if you, so that's you order that online, and then I'll just ship them out from my apartment. But we also have a couple retail options. So for our latest batch of issues, which are coming soon, I'll be sending some more to Strange Adventures in Halifax. Was a retailer who reached out to us to support us.
Oh, awesome!
So they're going to be getting a few issues, and then also Studio Comics Press has a retail location as well. They're not just a printer; they're a comic book store as well.
Oh, cool!
So in Kitchener, Ontario, they have them right now because they're also the printer. So. They get them first. So if you're in the GTA, but you can go to Kitchener, maybe not recommended now. So maybe online is still the best option. But anyway, in the future, they'll always have the latest ones at their store too. And then thirdly, we are in talks with the Raid Studio to also have a few issues. just need to confirm that potentially.
Oh, awesome! So you now, if everything goes through with Raid, and I hope it does, that'll give you a location in Toronto,
Yeah.
Kingston, online, which is, I mean, heck.
Toronto, Kitchener. Sorry, Toronto, Kitchener, and Halifax.
Thank you. And then of course, yeah, like I mentioned, online. Frankly, you could mail it anywhere. And
In
then,
Canada, yeah.
yeah, and then you've also got the digital too. If someone really has a hankering for say get all four of the issues that we've got in our hands, as well as the additional 3 that are currently out now, right? 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, so so for the ones this year, especially with the whole pandemic situation, I just printed printed 6 and 7 at the same time. And so normally I try to print them individually, but depending on timing of things, I may wait and try to combine the orders. But in this case, 6 and 7 are combined, so they're coming out soon. But you can still order them on the site. I've ordered extras, obviously, so. But the pre-orders were much appreciated to confirm how many I needed. So we will put them up for pre-order before any physical copies go out, to help us gauge how many we should print.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be left with 200 magazines sitting around somewhere.
Yeah, and then the thing with the digital issues though too is that we make them pay what you want. So they're free if you want to just read them, but then any donation is appreciated if you want to support us. So digital copies are free, but they do give you the option to throw us a couple bucks if you want.
Wonderful. And I always find that to be I suppose a scary proposition, and perhaps you yourself find it that way, because the people that are, to me anyway, like diehard fans that want to support, they will. At the same time, you can get people that just take the free copies of it. I mean, either way, you're getting the message out. It will spread, and in the end, hopefully that ends up in sales for y'all. At the same time, yeah, I don't know. I think it's very, I guess, brave, I would say, but that doesn't seem quite right, like the idea of that. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that you would allow that, just so that people can get their hands on it and check it out.
Yeah, so we want it to be a community resource. Like we want creators to be able to reach as many readers as possible. So if we kept everything behind a paywall, that would be an issue. So trying to reach as many potential readers as possible to help the creators is the whole purpose. We're not trying to make a profit or anything, unless things somehow really take off. But all of our writers volunteer their time to come up with the articles and interview creators. So I give them a copy for free of the physical copy, but other than that, it's all volunteer. So yeah, donations do just help to cover the Gumroad website and the printing costs too. So we use some of those digital sales to help the print run as well. So
oh yeah,
kind of all goes into one pot there. But